Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Max 6 Entrepreneur Center right here in Tempe, Arizona, where we help build businesses and connect you with the right people. And we are doing just that today. I am very excited to introduce you to a new dear friend, Tyler with Glaive, and underneath that Glaive banner, and really under Tyler's expertise, there are a lot of things that our business owners in the greater Phoenix area and beyond are going to want to know about. So welcome to the studio.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And this is different because usually you're sitting in the interviewee spot, or interviewer spot.
Yeah.
But you do plenty of guest spots as well.
Yeah, usually, on average, once or twice a week, actually.
Okay.
So
open up the book of Tyler. Who are you? We'll talk about how we met later on, but just give us an introduction to who you are and how you're serving leaders in our area.
You know, it's funny. So one time I was practicing for a seminar that we do. So we do these free seminars, marketing, podcasting, accounting, that sort of stuff. And so I'm sitting there in the building practicing, because I want to do a good job. I actually think with seminars, it's way less about me. It's more like, this isn't my phrase, but it's like, you think of all the people in the room and you're taking an hour from them, and so, or in my case, usually 3 hours, and you add that up between 100 people, that's a lot of life hours. So I take a lot of time in preparing when I'm going to do this. And so, my crew kind of heard me practicing and they're like, Tyler, that's your intro. It's like, that's what you're going to say about yourself. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, Tyler, we know you're cool, and everything, but these people don't know you. You probably got to stay a little bit more than that. Right. So I tell that story to say, like, I'm horrible at, like saying, hey, this is me, this is what I do, sort of thing. But I think ultimately I do a couple things. I fight bullies, and I do that in a couple different ways, whether that's through my bully podcast with my co-host Clifford, or, like bullies in business, bullies in life, and then I help underdogs, and so like, I think that's my underlying theme, is fighting bullies and helping underdogs.
And which is a big banner.
It
I've
is.
gotten to know you in this short week and a half. It's
Yeah.
a small banner that fits a lot inside of it.
Sure.
Yeah. And I love that your team had called you out on being very humble because there is so much to what you have to offer the world. So
thank you.
Talk about Glaive. Like, what is Glaive? And then, let's just fill in the blanks for that.
Oh man, now we're going to need 2 hours, 3 hours. LinkedIn, you ready for this? So Glaive, I love. Passion project. You can probably see me chirping up immediately, but I want Glaive to basically be a platform to even the playing field for small business people. And what's interesting is when I first started thinking about Glaive, it's like, you know what? I started my first business with nothing. Nobody helped me. It shouldn't be this hard. All the stuff I thought was hard in the beginning that scared me away from business, honestly, was actually the easy stuff. The LLC, how to sign up for, tax ID, these sort of things. They're easy, but that's the stuff that scares small business people. So when I first approached the problem, I'm like, I just want to make that stuff less scary, and the thing that like is not put out there in the world, because a lot of people profit off it, is the immense amount of work a business takes, the amount of stress, it's like, but you can't sell that idea. So that idea is not popular to say online, right? So it really, Glaive is made to help you do the stuff that, you think is hard, lowering the imaginary red tape banner. But then when I started like researching Glaive, I wrote an 85-page business plan for Glaive, and I stumbled across the small business dilemma. And the small business dilemma is we're actually losing small business at a rate of 0.04% per year. If we look at the heyday of the American economy, let's say it was like 1950-ish, right? That's when we can picture the American dream, the house, the car, the working one parent, families and all this stuff. And if we look at that, small business was actually at its zenith. And so there's a huge correlation that nobody's paying attention to. The disastrous effects on the economy are actually a lot to do with the destruction of small business. And so it became even more of a mission. Then it became less, it's still about helping underdogs succeed, educate in business, but it's also about making sure the American dream's still available. And I'm sorry, I get off on a tangent on this. It's like, but for a lot of us, that is our way to change our stars. It's like, if I hadn't had business in life, like my life would be completely different. It is the way that I've changed what I thought my destiny was supposed to be. And I want that for others.
What did you think your destiny was as a young man?
Oh, 9 to 5 worker for sure.
Trades or?
Yeah, maybe trades. It's like I had my first full-time job at 13 years old. And my first full-time job was actually working for the landlord of our low income. We lived in government housing, apartment complex. I remember my first summer with him, which is crazy now. I think of a 13-year-old kid doing it. It's like much like the sidewalk out here. He's this old man. He's in the backhoe. He'd lift the corner of the concrete up. It angled, right? I'd smash it with the sledgehammer and I'd load in the truck. I did that all summer. And so then it went into like repair stuff, sprinkler systems, things like that. I worked with him for a couple of years. And I pretty much have always had 2 jobs, full-time job in school, for the last business in school, 2 businesses, 4 businesses for the last, 30 years of my life almost, And so, I thought my destiny originally, and this is such a weird flip in my life, is like, I hated school, hated it.
Me too,
And,
when I became a teacher.
and like I was nearly a high school dropout, I was like, what is this school stuff? Like, I want to have a job. I want to have food. I want to have clothes like other people do, And so like, I thought that was my destiny. I couldn't wait to get out of high school, because it's like this high school thing is just getting in the way of work. I'll have 2 jobs, like all this stuff. And like, it's crazy because I made such a transition after, and I know the world's changing when it comes to this a little bit, but it used to be that if you didn't have a degree, every door was closed for you, And so like I was tired of I was tops of my company in sales, ran huge departments, but I always, anytime I wanted that big next step, like no education, no next step, right? So that's when I finally, and I was told I was stupid in high school too. That didn't help, And so like I really feared college. Ended up going to college and like that made me change my mind about what my destiny could be, and so and then while in college I actually got in trouble with the city of Scottsdale and that became my first business. So really, it's like those little steps that kind of like led me in that direction. I was never the entrepreneur that said I always knew I wanted to be one. That was like the rich white dude, like, and I granted like with the rich uncle or something like that.
Wasn't
So
you.
yeah, it didn't feel like me.
So you can't just leap over or prance over. You got in trouble with the city of Scottsdale, and that became your first business without telling us that story.
Yeah. So I was working full time, going to school full time. I actually chose kind of as a flip off to my teachers that didn't believe in me in high school. I chose a biochemistry degree program. So pretty busy.
I'll show you,
Yes.
stupid.
Yeah. It's like, after I like first went to college, I'm like, what's the hardest degree they got at this place? And like the biggest thing I could think of was biochemistry. And there's some other stuff going on with me too, some life-changing stuff that I was like thinking more about like what I wanted to do really in the world. So excuse me. So that was a lot of work, a lot of hours. And I think like it first was inspired by I didn't have any money and I wanted like a cool car. So I'm like, well, I can't afford a cool car, so I'm going to build a cool car. So I built a 1966 Cadillac Coupe de Ville in my backyard. And then that led to me like working on more cars, picking up, and everybody would always think I was crazy. They'd be like, you're going to buy that thing? It'd be on like blocks in somebody's backyard. And they'd see what I'd turn it into with the couple free hours a week I had. And eventually I'm ripping off paint in my front driveway off this. Oh, I had a 60 Scout, if I remember, just literally stripping off paint. And the city basically sent me a letter and they're like, you can't do that anymore. So that became like what would eventually become my first business.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's how long ago?
10 years, something ago.
Just 10 years.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You've done a lot in your lifetime, but a lot in 10 years.
Yeah. Thank you.
So this was a business.
Maybe a little bit more than that, but not too much.
Classic cars.
Yeah.
And you still own that business?
So I found a bay, with a dirt floor, no electricity, and like a steel overhang roof, kind of like one of those roofs. All that's much fancier. That became my first shop. And my original intention was to build drivable classics, right? Stuff that didn't sit in the garage, stuff that we do actually use. It's interesting that actually changed quickly because my plan was to lock myself in, build these cars, sell them. And people kept asking me, hey, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? We stumbled across these couple innovative products right away, got super well known for those innovative products. We were like selling lighting systems at one point, at the zenith of lighting systems. And so they actually gave us world attention. And so the next thing we know, we're shipping out lighting systems all over the country. We get known for doing this wrap stuff that was new at the time. And since I came from a classic car building background, I knew when you painted a car, you rip it apart for the best possible job. You don't spray the car with all the stuff on it, right? All the trim and everything else. So when we looked at wraps, when it was new, I looked at it the same way. I'm like, we got to rip this thing apart, and like most wraps were done at that time by sign shops, not car shops. So the sign shop guys didn't even know how to do that. So the next thing I knew, we became known like hands down as doing this the best in the country, and we had the cheat code because we took everything off the car. So it made us really good at it. So that became, then we eventually became a 3M test facility. We were buying more film than anybody in almost the entire country at that point, which means we were doing a heck of a lot of those cars. And then from there, it just built, the business from there. We became a true one-stop shop. I had several locations. I had second largest powder coating system in the city. I had print department, I had wood shop. I had eventually, like towards the end of when I sold that business, we were doing more light run manufacturing than anything else for local manufacturers. So let's say you're the new Tesla and you don't have your own manufacturing facilities, but you're not doing it in the terms of millions, or like high thousands. You need a smaller facility, and that's where we kind of took in and stepped in. So we were doing that for a lot of local manufacturers, which there's quite a few here in Phoenix.
So you sold that business.
Sold that business.
How long ago?
I want to say it's 3.5 years or something now.
And I remember you saying you did quite well, and you could have retired.
Yeah.
But you didn't.
No. Well, I tried.
We tried.
Yeah.
What happened? And then what are you focusing on now?
I tried some things trying to decide what I wanted to do next. And one of the things that approaching a fear in life, we actually, in that first business that we were just talking about, it was popular. People were interested in it. It's like I turned down 4 reality shows that we were offered on our business. I was deathly afraid. You couldn't even actually get me to say more than I worked there at the time. So I didn't embrace like social media. I didn't embrace YouTube, didn't embrace, like being on camera. I was deathly afraid of it. And that was actually foolish of me. Very foolish. And so like, I kind of like, everything's a story, like a big story, but like through a series of events, I started trying to overcome this fear. And that led to my first podcast, which was Bully This, where we interview people that were bullied and now successful adults in an effort to help kids. I saw a documentary, killed me, like gave me such sadness that I wanted to do something about it. And so I realized that my first business no longer aligned with me at all. I had changed so much in those years that I really wanted to do something I felt was a little bit more impactful for the world. So I exited that company and a couple others that we'd built, smaller ones. That first step into Bully This changed my life too. It's like, then it led to a docuseries where we travel the world and seek founders of amazing organizations and we take their stories to camera. So I spent 2 months in Cambodia meeting my personal hero. And we have that documentary coming out later on this year. Led to another podcast, which is called Underdogs, Bootstrappers, Game Changers, where I really attempt to step in as that rich uncle most people don't have and interview people that will be helpful or tell stories around what is the real side of business. And so that's another thing we do. And then I started doing a lot of pro bono consulting, And so I would walk into a business that was about to fail and I would help them with accounting, marketing, whatever they needed. And chances are I had that problem in my own businesses at some point. Now I had to fix it myself, and then so I recognized it immediately. And that led to kind of finally, it's like, I wanted to do it a little bit more formal. I wanted to have a little bit more impact. And then, that's what led to basically moving back to Phoenix and starting Glaive and, a couple other companies under that umbrella.
We might just have to be here all day. I've heard a few of these stories before as we've gotten to know each other quite quickly. I'm just uber impressed with the depth of knowledge, the expertise, and then this giver's heart, right? This servant leadership piece.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to ask a question that I hope you'll answer. You talked about when you sold the business and you had those opportunities to have a reality show, but you weren't interested, didn't want to, or there was a fear, I can't remember which word you used, to be in front of the camera and to have the light on you per se. Do you know, and now that's what you do, and that's what you teach others to do among the many other things that you do. Can you look back with us and tell us, do you know what that fear was, or do you know why you were avoiding that? And how has that shifted to now be this phenomenal leader for us that's ever present and very much out there and visible?
So you might see some anger in what's about to come up a little bit, but it's like, My favorite person in the world, the person that I admire, is that little, let's say, little old man or woman in the corner of the world that nobody's ever heard of, that is just doing amazing work, surely for the fact of doing amazing work. That is who I admire, right? And that is who I wanted to be. And that's why I think I had a hard time embracing, like what my first company was and what I could have done with the reality shows and things like that. And now I think back and shame on me. Absolute shame on me. Fool, Tyler. Fool.
Because why?
Why do we teach that good people need to be humble? Evil has no problem telling you everything, selling you things you don't need, lying to you. Why are we teaching good that you have to be quiet in the corner? Right? And like honestly, I spent 5 years at the children's home in Mesa, Sunshine Acres. Great place. Beautiful place. You check it out, please, because they do amazing work there. Your donations actually bring them out there because they sell the furniture and then that's what funds the home. And they do an incredible job out there. It's like I went there for 5 years. I didn't tell a single person. Shame on me. You know how many people would wanted to come with me? Like Tyler can do so much work out there, right? But what if his friends come? What if his reality show was brought out there? Like shame on me for doing that. I did the same thing with dogs at the animal shelter. It's like shame on me. And I've actually had the opportunity to meet with some of the biggest founders of organizations, charity organizations in the world. I tell them the same thing these days. I'm like, what's more important? You're humble or you save another kid?
And is there a difference between being humble and having humility and quiet? Because you in my opinion,
Yeah.
what I've witnessed again as we've rapidly gotten to know each other, you are humble. There is a great sense of humility, and you're also no longer quiet. I've not known you to be quiet, thank goodness, because we
Yeah.
wouldn't have connected here,
Yeah.
right? So the anger isn't about, and maybe I'm just trying to track and understand. I think there's still place for humility and being humble.
There is.
And it's the quiet piece or using those as banners or terms to not step out of your comfort zone to say, "I make a difference."
Here's where I draw the delineation, and I've finally realized what it is. If you're going to go out there and hand 20 bucks to somebody on the street today, that is not worth talking about. But
And
if
and
you're
sadly, many people are, "Look at
Yeah,
me, I just gave
yeah.
$20 to this XYZ."
But if you're giving a good amount of your life towards an organization and you can bring more impact to them, shame on you for keeping it quiet. And like here's the thing, I used to keep quiet about all this stuff. I had a girlfriend at the time that thought I was cheating on her because I'd sneak off on a Saturday morning, to go work at the children's home. It's like, but like, and I come back to that, like how many people would have liked to help? If I'm posting that on social media, how many people would that have brought awareness to? It's like if you care about something, you owe it to that organization to talk about it. And the second I started talking about this stuff is the second people started rallying to my banner on it. I never used to do this. Our foundation for foster kids that we're starting right now is because I happen to hear, excuse me, I want to backtrack this story a little bit if you don't mind, but like I have a lot of people that come into our studio, Backlot Studios, and they're interesting groups, and I spend a lot of time helping charity organizations, especially around marketing and podcasting and that sort of stuff. So a youth incarceration group came in, and they happened to spill out during our conversation that I'm trying to help them, that when we don't have anywhere and you guys aren't going to believe this what I'm about to say, but if we don't have anywhere for kids to go in Arizona, foster kids, they end up going to the youth incarceration centers despite never doing anything wrong. We're setting up them up for failure. It's so sad and scary. And so when I heard this, it made me sick. And then not long after, I heard there was a group of people that wanted to do something with foster kids. And so I said, hey, I want to have a dinner with them, like set it up. I'm going to see what I can do to help them. And that somehow became, Tyler has an idea for how we're going to help foster kids. He's going to present the idea in our building downtown. And so I was like, okay, I guess this is on me, right? And so I had about 30 people come down, some very respected members of society, and we basically launched Foster Connections that day. And now I teamed up with a wonderful lady named Mary, who's retiring from the banking industry, who's going to run the forefront of the operation. Incredible woman, super talented, came from absolutely nothing. I'll let her tell her story someday. But and then Lisa was George Clooney did a documentary on her sister, or produced one, and Lisa grew up nothing. Mom did horrible things to them, sold them. Lisa ended up in 38 homes. There's a lot more horribleness to the story. Lisa was homeless at 18. That's the issue we're actually working on, is the age out issue. At 18, they get kicked out of the system and they end up homeless or a lot worse, right? Incarcerated. But Lisa's a success story. She actually went to college, graduated college, became a helicopter mechanic in the Air Force, runs PR for the Air Force. We just talked Dr. Phil a couple weeks ago. That woman is going to do more for foster care than, I'm convinced of it. You back people up that are going to change the world, and she's going to change the world. So she's a part of the foundation as well. So that's from talking about it. Look at what's happening, And so like, that's why I say, I'm like, and I get on founders these days too. It's like, you know what, what's more important? You being humble, or are you saving a couple more kids? And the answer is you saving a couple more kids.
And nonprofit doesn't mean there shouldn't be some revenue. I mean, there's got to be revenue.
There has to be.
Right? If there is no money that's supporting the mission, the vision, then, and I hate that term nonprofit, right? Because oftentimes those folks who come into something with a pure heart and really wanting to change the world, they don't have the mindset for revenue and different income streams.
Yeah.
And then they flail along. In addition to what we spoke about earlier around not being able to really shout from the rooftops and step out of the comfort zone saying, this matters and here's why, and being that voice. So thank you for helping move that along.
I think business is what changes the world. And so now, like, I structure businesses in a way where they have to be financially successful. Mm-hmm. You can't help anybody, if you're destitute, right? Or the business is. Mm-hmm. You have to make change through the business. But every business I start now has a component of change, positive change, whether it be through small business, whether it be our studios, which then you also use the camera to bring great stories to the world for charity. It's like there's an offset to everything. I mean, even Foster Connections, its whole MO is basically we're connecting via film, via website, the resources that already exist because they're abundant. The kids just don't know how to use them. Our second phase, and this is the one that is my pie in the sky dream. Like, if you're going to make me pitch an idea in my facility, it's going to be anything I want to pitch. And so I've had a plan for years to open basically you can think of almost like an apple orchard cider mill in some, areas, but basically a ranch here in Arizona. It's a for-profit ranch. You can come, you can have we work with video production a lot, so you can film video there. If you want to have your wedding there, you'll be able to have your wedding there. That's a for-profit facility. Tourism spot, but the offset is we're going to employ age-out foster kids, and then we're also going to have a charity component that houses age-out foster kids. As part of it, we're also going to have animal refuge because I believe in the healing power for animal and kids to connect. Mm-hmm. So there you go in like for-profit business bound to make change.
Yeah. In everything you do. That is the thread and the theme through everything that you do.
I totally believe in it.
So tell us about Backlot Studios.
Yeah. Backlot Studios is the most powerful tool we have in the world now. One I'm learning to embrace is this one right here. For your small business, for your change. So I'm really passionate about bringing good to the world through messaging, right? Because I'm fond of saying this, and I say it to a lot of people, evil has no problem using this tool. Good needs to use it too. So we have too many humble people in this world that have great messaging for the world, and they're afraid to say it because they're afraid of what you'll think. Stop worrying about what people think. Start worrying about your deathbed. Honestly, I hate to be morbid. Start worrying about your deathbed. When you're laying there on your deathbed, do you want to think, oh man, so-and-so would have cared that I said this on Instagram? Or I said this, so therefore I made change. It's not easy for me to do still, but I get people that pop into my inbox all the time and they're like, this thing you said last week is why I'm still on this planet. That's worth any fear. That's worth people being crappy to me once in a while in the comment. It's like, it's a change maker. And, so that's kind of where Backlot Studios evolved, is like, we want to bring good messaging to the world. And so we make it super easy to do that. If you're interested in podcasting, we do a lot with film production. It's like, that's what we're working on, is more good messaging for the world.
Incredible. Who is Scott Neeson?
Yeah, I dropped a little bit,
I
hinted towards him. Yeah. And so most people don't know this. It's so funny to me. It's like, I get to give. So ultimately, I call my title in life the tour guide,
I saw that. I smiled when I saw that. You obviously submitted a guest form for us, and it said Glaive, and then your title or role was tour guide.
Yeah, I don't like to be called CEO. I don't like to be called president. I don't like to be called any of that. I like to be called tour guide, And so basically I get to give a lot of tours and talk to people, which I absolutely love. I love people. And so I get to talk about Scott Neeson when I'm giving a tour backlot. Backlot's kind of cool in a lot of ways. It takes me about 30 minutes to get through a tour backlot. And so I get to tell them, things that I have that are passions, including about our document series. And I always say, do you know who Scott Neeson is? And they say no. And I say, well, what if I told you he's a guy that was a high school dropout, started running a film projector in a movie house, and built his way up to be president of Fox Studios? He was responsible for X-Men, Titanic, Braveheart, all these mega blockbuster films. He ends up selling everything he owns in life, the mansion, the cars, the Hollywood lifestyle. And he went over to Cambodia, and he's saving kids over there from the trash dump and putting them through school. He's affecting an entire community as far as housing, food. They've got people in college now. Like, when you travel, and I did this so I can experience it firsthand, when you travel around Cambodia, and it doesn't matter what far off corner of the country you're in, you could be in a little tiny town, you ask them who Scott Neeson is, they all know. He's a hero of Cambodia, they say. He gave up everything for Cambodia, they say. A monk said, I hope I can be as enlightened as Scott. It's like, and what are my goals with that? Scott's a personal hero of mine for 8 years. He's my Michael Jordan.
How did you get connected with him originally?
A small article I read 8 years ago. And I just admired the guy. It's one thing, he worked so hard to get everything he had, and he gave it away so easily. And he will tell you that he's the most blessed man on earth. It's like he walks around that neighborhood every single night. Dirty lot. It's 1,000,000 degrees. It's like he walks around every single night and checks on the kids. I see him slipping money to the old people. He's holding an old woman's hand on the floor while she's passing away, and she's smiling at him because she loves him. It's like, that is incredible. That is success. That is true success. And that's what I want to show people. That's a true hero. That is true success. Stop watching Instagram for the guy with the Ferrari.
Right.
Like, that's a hero worth admiring. And that's what I want to show the world. We are, as a society, the result of our heroes. We need to change the way we look at that.
Does that speak volumes to our U.S. culture?
Yeah.
And social media, and who we look to as heroes collectively, right? Yeah. The musicians, the athletes, the actors, and the actresses, even sometimes our politicians and our decision makers when it comes to the government. We need to switch that. Say that statement again. You said that our
society is a result of the heroes we admire.
Yeah.
If more people admired Scott, do you imagine what this country would look like?
Right. Our teachers, our nurses, our doctors.
Absolutely. People making change in the world,
Yeah.
people giving up everything for that change. That's somebody to admire. I'm not saying everybody out there, having a great mission in life can be raising an incredible family and just being there for them, And I'm not saying your success shouldn't equal having nice things if you want that. I'm not saying that at all. Have the Ferrari.
You're saying quite the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Again, that's what I've witnessed. There is this humility. There's this area of expertise that continues to grow and expand because you are a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
And it is not one without the other. It is have a mission, drive a purpose, speak volumes about the work that you're doing so others can jump in and help you or find their own purpose and mission as well. And it is okay to have nice things as well.
Absolutely. You can't, there was one point in my business, and like Scott's turning point for his business, I'm actually going to spill it. I don't usually, because I want you to watch the documentary. But there was a point where Scott was actually, he's making all kinds of money, right? What makes sense is you keep your fancy job, right? And then you fund something, but they kept messing it up. They weren't very impactful. They weren't doing it right? He'd go back there and they'd find it was failing every single time, even though he was funding it. And so eventually he was thinking about making the move, and he's over there, he's checking out the trash dump like he always does. These kids are literally dying in the trash dump. They're falling through, like the trash dump is like methane underneath. You're going to burn alive if you fall through. You're going to get run over by these huge trucks. It's like they're 5 years old picking up scrap and are getting hurt and dying out there. So this old woman runs up to Scott because she recognized him, and she had a kid in her hand that had typhoid. And she brings him to Scott, and Scott's like, I don't know, I'm not a doctor. Of course Scott's going to help, but he's going to call a doctor or whatever. Meantime, his phone rings, and this major celebrity, who Scott won't say who it was, calls him, and he's about to get on his private jet. And apparently there's no Xbox on the private jet. And the celebrity says, do you know how hard my life is? Scott's holding a dying child in his arms, and he's like, I wish I could thank the guy today, because that was the moment I knew. That was the moment I knew. And so I shouldn't have told Scott's story first, because mine in comparison is nothing. But I had a guy one time, it's like, his racing stripe kit on his car was going to be a day late because of equipment malfunction. We were nice to the guy. I even gave a ride home, all this stuff. He cried. And when you're spending your nights like reading books like how Poverty Inc. or documentaries books, How Helping Hurts, like these sort of things. It's like I was very in tune with wanting to make some change, and be a little bit more fulfilled by the work I was doing. And when this guy's crying over his first world possession, it made me sick. And like I almost walked out of my business right then. Just didn't care. And I have an overzealous friend, he's Greek, and he goes, Tyler, and he's dead right about this. You can't change the world on the street corner with a sign. You have to pull up to the boardroom in the Ferrari. That's how you change the world. And he's right. So your success is what changes the world. That's why I want more people to have their success. That's why I built Glaive, right? That's why I want more people to tell their story, because your success ultimately leads to being able to change things, and we need more people that want success to make it. And I'm not talking bad about Elon Musk when I say this, but and like, I don't care how anybody feels about him. It doesn't really matter, but the point is, if Elon Musk had grown up in the foster care system, would it look the way it does? The answer is no, it wouldn't. He'd be mad about it. He'd be fixing it now. So guess what you do? You find a kid that grew up in the foster care system. You embrace, you help, you don't give it to them. You bolster them to their success. And then they change those things. And that's what I ultimately believe. The more underdogs I can help make it, they change the things they're frustrated about. And I'll have a part in that change.
So for our listeners who are in the greater Phoenix area, or even just small business owners anywhere who's catching this, what is your greatest advice for them? And then with that, somebody who's listening perhaps works for a company right now. Would you recommend they start thinking about a business, and what are some of the greatest business ideas for coming into 2025 or right now? So two-part, right?
Yeah.
What is the greatest advice for folks who are listening and in business for themselves? What should they be doing? And then if you're not in business for yourself, should you be?
I'll answer it this way. This is more for the younger audience, but it's like it worked for me like a charm. The second I started realizing, so we have video games, right? And we build the character on the video game. We have them chop wood. They get stronger. They learn how to chop better. We have them lift a weight. They get stronger. We have them eat the apple. They get healthier. We have them read the book. They get smarter. Look at your life this way. Your avatar is the key to any success you ever want to have, right? It's like you need a good avatar to do matter what you're going to do in life. So it doesn't matter if you're going to go into business, if you're going to be a dentist, or if you're going to be a writer, like build that avatar, make them stronger. And then here's another thing is like, if you have a beautiful heart, give yourself the rest of it to go with. I want more kind-hearted badasses in the world, like kind-hearted people, but you can build the rest. You can go out there and train mixed martial arts. You can lift weights. You can train all that stuff. So build an avatar. That's the key to doing anything in life, including business, right? Get smarter, get healthier. You're going to need all these habits for business. And should you open a business, you should not open a business just to open a business. If you're getting your business idea from the 2024 best ideas on YouTube, shame on you. Do the hard work. Make the mission aligned to the business. In fact, I have a way that I think works to do it. You put the business idea in your head, and then you go out there and you read the book, Man's Search for Meaning. And you see if that meaning aligns to the business, right? Make it worth something. Now it's a mission, right? It's easy to quit a business idea from 2024 YouTube. You weren't heart and soul into that. It is impossible to quit a mission. So don't do something you love in this world. Do something you hate. Open the business that solves the thing you hate. That's how you find one that you'll never fail at.
I'm going to leave us right there. I know we're going to have more conversations.
Yeah.
So for our viewers and listeners who are just getting to know you for the first time, where's the best place to keep an eye on what you're doing and get to know you better?
Yeah, I'm very accessible, especially my Instagram at Tyler Uriah. You can connect with me anytime. I answer business questions. I answer life questions if I have them. I'm no psychologist, but
I don't know. Maybe not with a degree.
And I'm always looking now to network with more like-hearted, kind-hearted, badass people, and bring them into anything that we're doing, which is a lot. It's like when you want to change things in the world, you can't do it alone. So connect with me if you are interested in anything we're doing.
Awesome. Tyler, thank you so much for spending your time with us this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Looking forward to sharing more time with you. You've been listening to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Mac 6 Entrepreneurial Center. Some media leans left, some lean right, and we lean business. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki. Thanks for listening.